I'm Janelle.
I'm Malik.
Welcome to Coffee Side Chats.
A podcast where we talk about everything and nothing.
You don't need to wear another green t-shirt.
They could at least laminate.
Oh my gosh.
Very interesting.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's been there.
Okay.
For most of my life.
Are you recording? Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's morning for me. It's not morning for you.
Yes, that is correct.
Yep. So today's podcast, we are doing coffee, which I feel is very appropriate.
Especially given how all this began anyway, right?
Yeah. How many times did we talk about this at coffee shops? We went to so many coffee shops, and I'm pretty sure at least every other time we talked about starting a podcast. So now it's all coming to fruition.
Yeah, it was definitely a big topic. So, of course, that's why we would have to start with coffee. I mean, that's where our friendship began anyway. We started like getting to know each other at just coffee shops, which really lends itself to the way we like to talk about things, which is long and drawn out.
Mm-hmm. Because coffee shops are such a good place to just go hang out for a long time. And we never went to go study. We always went to just go talk. And we would talk for hours and hours. Even if we had nothing to talk about.
Oh yeah, especially if we had nothing to talk about. That was the point of the entire exercise. Mm-hmm. Just to talk about whatever came. The first time we went to a coffee shop, it was we were there an hour, and if you hadn't had to leave to go pick someone up.
3 hours.
Was it 3 hours the first time?
Yes.
I thought the first time was at Banu.
It was. We went right after work.
Okay.
Because I remember I left straight from work. It was during winter.
It was 10.
I left at 9.
You got off at 9. You had 9 to... Good grief.
I went to go pick up Jordan at 12.
Yep. So that would have been from 9:15 to 11:45, basically. Yeah. Jeez.
Even then, on our first coffee date, what did we call it? We knew that we could spend so much more time talking because we talked about really serious and really silly conversations, and we just kept going.
Yeah, it's funny how serious the first few conversations we had were. I mean, it's not like we really knew each other that well, but there was something unifying about being at a coffee shop that we both loved that just made everything go a little bit easier.
I think I'd only been to Banu once at that point. I went with my sister and I had no idea what was going on.
It's a crazy place.
But then I went back with you and I felt kind of at ease. We got good drinks. You told me what you liked, which I always appreciate. And yeah, we talked about really like stuff that people would talk about after knowing each other for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of family stuff, which was definitely different.
And not like, this is my family. Let me tell you their names and what they do. It was, these are the issues in my family.
Yeah. And they go back a long time.
Yeah. That was wild. But it was so good. And that like forced us to be friends for a long time. Because we knew each other so well from the get-go. Even though we'd hung out, not just you and me a couple times. Not just you and me. We'd hung out a couple times though.
Yeah.
With our friend group, and we worked together, we knew each other. But that was the first time we hung out, just you and me. And we got along so well.
It was funny because one of our mutual friends decided that he's like, you guys both love coffee. You should go get coffee. You guys would hit it off great. And it was one of those things where you want to take their word for it, but you have to be a little bit skeptical because it's not like we knew each other that well. So the first thing was like, yeah, go. So I just it was funny because I just walked up to you right before I left. I was like, hey, we should go get coffee. When? Tonight you're not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Let's go. It's just the most impromptu kind of thing you could think of.
Mm-hmm. It was wild, but it was so good. And then we hung out at so many coffee shops, which Austin has a plethora of really nice coffee shops, which is great.
I didn't think, like growing up, I liked coffee. And it was one of those things where suddenly I was in a city where you could trip over a coffee shop if you on pretty much every corner, every neighborhood had two or three, not even just, obviously there were Starbucks and places like that, but there were just tons of local coffee shops. Like a chain of local coffee shops would be like Banu, which had two, and
Right.
Austin Java, which had like five, I think, locations across the entire city.
I don't think I
But
went there.
I didn't love it. They burnt their coffee. So that's part of the reason we never went.
Yeah, that's the downfall of all the coffee shops here. Now that I live in Oregon, all the coffee shops here burn their coffee. And it's so freaking annoying. Because I
Yeah.
go in and they talk about how much they love coffee and how excited they are, and I try it and it's burnt. Like half the time.
It's like, you guys don't love coffee like I love coffee.
Mhm.
And, in San Antonio, where I am now, there are, lots of chains, but as far as really good local places, they're just not that many. And you kind of have to drive kind of far to get to any of them that are reasonably good. And the biggest benefit of living in Austin was the number of 24-hour coffee shops. If you were just feeling like 3 a.m, I want to go get a cup of coffee, you could just go. It was not a problem. You could find 4 or 5 places that are open. So might as well go try. But in San Antonio, there's just not that many.
That's the downfall of all the coffee shops here in Roseburg, Oregon. It's a small town, but we've got like a good number of coffee shops, but they all close really early, and the only one open on Sundays is Starbucks. That's the only one open in town. There's another one that's like 30 minutes away that's open on Sundays. All the rest of them, only weekdays, or they close at 4. It's
Yeah, that is a bad situation.
terrible. So my roommate and I have decided that it would be a good idea for us to open a coffee shop that would be open later for the people who are from areas of the country or areas of the world where drinking coffee in the evening is a good way to spend your time. And drinking coffee on Sundays is a good way to spend your time. So we are going to meet somebody tomorrow about renting a coffee shop and buying all the equipment and running a coffee shop while both having full-time jobs.
Well, that is a interesting hobby. I would be very interested in seeing that one. Be very fun, but also kind of stressful.
Oh yeah, so stressful. Just talking about it, I'm stressed out. But we've been talking about it nonstop
Yeah.
since Monday, and we both know that it's just a thought experiment, but we're both really committed when we talk about it. Way more serious than we should be for just a thought experiment.
Well, that's the thing. You might find that it's much more reasonable than you thought it was going into it. So that could be a big situation there.
Yeah, nobody here drinks coffee after 2. Like, I've talked to a bunch of people, and whenever I talk about going to a coffee shop after work, they all say, oh, I don't drink coffee after 2. It makes me really jittery.
Huh, that's pretty strange.
Yeah.
But
My
that,
theory is they don't drink enough coffee, but they do drink enough coffee because everybody and their mom here goes through the coffee drive-thrus like 18 times a day.
good grief. Yeah, coffee. That's curious that so many places have coffee drive-throughs. That's really a Starbucks thing down here. That's pretty much it. That's the only place you can go with a Starbucks with a drive-through for coffee.
That's like Roseburg's equivalent to tripping over coffee shops in Austin, where there's one on every corner and it's like a sit-down coffee shop. Here, there's a drive-through coffee shop everywhere.
Hmm.
I
That
think
made
just in Roseburg, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. Just in Roseburg.
8 drive-through coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
you
then
know
all the
that.
sit-down coffee shops, the only one that has a drive-through is Starbucks.
Huh. Interesting.
Weird.
That could be a sign of just how non-committed everyone is to coffee. Because if you have that many drive-throughs, so people want to get in, get out. So the overall quality necessarily of coffee doesn't really matter as much if people are just trying to get the caffeine hit and get out of there, you know?
So, like the biggest coffee shop here, they put, I think it's Red Bull in the coffee, and all their coffee is terrible, and it's all like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like they put a ton of sugar in it, and then they put all these extra weird flavors that no other coffee shop does. And part of me wants to scream at them and say, there's a reason no other coffee shop does this, because it's a bad idea. But everybody loves it, and I don't get it.
You know what? Some things are not for us to understand. It's very interesting because it's a lot the same way down here, where a lot of my coworkers, they always bring coffee in the morning. But as far as, drinking any after 5 o'clock, let's say, it's very unusual because I've invited a couple people to coffee. Like, well, you don't get off work till 5. I said, okay. To me, that's not a big deal. Like, so what? We go have coffee at 6:30. That's normal for me. But apparently, it's not really normal for anybody else that I know down here. So that is a curious thing.
Right? It's so weird.
You know what it makes me feel? It makes me feel like the coffee scene in Austin was just so utterly unique to Austin. Because I can't imagine anywhere else having that amount of coffee culture. Even in Arlington and areas where there are colleges, the coffee culture is just not as big. Another thing Austin does really push the small business aspect of things. A lot of small businesses don't make it, but there's a culture in the city of trying to support them,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that probably has a lot to do with the crazy coffee. I imagine it's cheaper to open a coffee shop than it is like a full-blown restaurant. So you can at least try it.
It's still a large chunk of money to throw at a business when you don't have a large chunk of money. You're not making a lot of money anyway, and you're still working full time, and you don't have a spouse or someone to support you if it all goes under.
Yeah, that is true. So that would be very interesting to see if you guys could figure out a way to do that. I don't know how the small business loans work up there and everything, but that would be interesting if you guys could pull it off. I would be willing to make a trip just to
Yeah,
see it.
you say this. We actually need you to come if we do open it. Like, we can't just do I would come. We need I'm going to come frequently.
Yes, very true. But
Uh,
yeah, I would definitely make a effort to get out there to see how well it's doing. That would be a fun trip. I could bring a couple of people with me too. There are a few people that would be interested, I think. It's a long way to go for coffee, but I'd do it.
the thing is, we do have a school. We have Umpqua Community College, and um, we have a really strong entrepreneurs group. Is wild. So I know we have that culture, and I know we can build it. So those are the people we're going to target, is the people who are trying to start a business, are young entrepreneurs, are entrepreneurs in general, and the students who need somewhere to study after school, which would be 3 and on. So we would be 5 and on.
Yeah, that could work. That could work if you could partner with those guys. That could be a big boon. And then you can work in, pastries and other things on top of that over time.
Figuring that. But once we do, Rachel will be making pastries. And so theoretically, I now know how to make espresso, which I'd watched a bunch of those videos before, but
Yeah, it's all about the practice now.
It is such a precise thing. And it's like seconds difference can be burnt or bitter.
Yeah, that can be rough.
If you pour too much, if it's not exactly even and flat, if it's compressed too much, so many things. Yeah. On the note of types of coffee, I made my French press this morning, and it was the best French press I've ever made.
Well, that's so good to hear.
finally figured it out.
I typically use the French press just because I like the way it tastes. It has a lot more flavor, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit heavier tasting, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
So I typically use the French press. I own a Keurig. I own a very nice Keurig. I don't use it that often, although yesterday I used it at least once. Was it once or twice? It was twice yesterday because I really didn't feel like pulling out the French press and boiling the water and getting it all prepped and everything. So I didn't use it yesterday, but today I used it. And I have my American press, which is a basically like a French press turned on its head. You basically put all the coffee inside a enclosed container, and you basically soak the coffee that way as you push down the plunger. It's it's a different taste, not as bitter as the French press can be because I use a pretty dark roast, and so when I do that with the French press, typically it's kind of bitter. Uh, but just the American press comes out more smooth with dark roast coffee. If it's both medium roast, is about the same, but the darker roast tends to have a different taste. I have that Keurig and I use it. Even though it really turned into a hot water machine for a while, where I would just use it because I needed half a cup of hot water or something like that. Honestly, the only problem with it is that it doesn't provide as much flavor, so it almost makes the coffee taste watered down. So I can make the same flavor, whatever, across the French press, the American press, and the Keurig, and the Keurig always tastes more watery. And there's, the quote unquote strong setting that's on the Keurig, and it just kind of makes it taste normal. It makes it taste as if I rushed doing the French press. That's about what it tastes like. I prefer to, typically 4 minutes is about how long most people want the French press to set. Sometimes I'll do 5 when I want to be a little bit stronger on the flavor. But yeah, it basically makes it taste like I did a 3-minute French press, which is not great because that's not, you really don't want that kind of taste in your coffee, but it's fine.
It's fine. One of my friends who's super into coffee, and I have gone to her a couple times when I have questions about different things. Normally I go to you, but sometimes I go to her. She uses a pour over, and she's committed to her pour over, and she'll post Instagram pictures with her using her pour over all the time. But it looks so fancy, and she's so serious about it. And that's still like the next coffee making method I want to try is pour over.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I'm almost there to pour over time. It, from what I've seen, it's much more finicky. You can really mess up a pour over really badly if you're not careful. The other brewing methods are much more forgiving. So I haven't got to the point where I'm ready to buy a Chemex for the pour over, but I have a couple in the Amazon wish list. So they're there. I just haven't got to the point where I'm ready to start doing it. Also, I don't have to buy filters right now, so that is actually a big benefit from the American press and the French press. Heck, and even the Keurig, I don't have to buy extra filters for that. So yeah, buying filters is not something I really want to do.
My intern supervisor, when I was in college, one of the internships I did, one of my intern supervisors, we went over to their house for something, and he had a Chemex. And that was the best coffee I've ever had. It was so good. He was so precise about the whole thing. I think he ground beans, looked at them, and decided they weren't good enough, so threw them away and got more.
Oh, wow.
He was very precise about the whole thing. I was so impressed with how beautiful it looks to watch somebody be really precise about their coffee, and then how amazing the coffee was. Highly recommend. If you're really, really serious about it, get a Chemex. If you're not, don't.
Yeah, that's a pretty good recommendation there. A lot of people have told me that about pour over, that it's so good, but you have to be really precise, which that's not the end of the world. I can do that.
Yeah.
uh, but I don't know if my fiance would like to me spending too much more time making coffee. I make it enough as it is.
Hmm. Well, my friend who posts it on Instagram a lot, every time she takes a picture, the pour over coffee cup is on a scale. Like she scales it the whole time. It's always being weighted, which I just think is so committed because she never does it without the scale, ever.
Yeah, I like at this point. I really like making coffee, but I have a very loose measuring method.
Yeah.
And getting when you go scale level, it's really everything needs to be precise. I'm just not there yet. But
Hmm.
something tells me though, give it in a few more months, I might be on that level.
Well, when you do, I will come back to Texas just to try your Chemex coffee because it's the best.
You're gonna have to give me about 6 months of work. I have to make sure it's perfectly right, and then have to get a hand grinder. A lot of people want to grind right before you do it, so
Right.
work. So as far as adding to your coffee, I'm a cream person. I used to be a cream and sugar person. But do you typically drink yours black, or you have a little bit of sugar? How do you like to do that?
I typically drink it black, but lately I've been really lazy and I haven't been making my own coffee and I've been drinking the crummy work coffee, which is still like we grind it every day. We never have just bags of grounds or like the little bags you throw in there. Uh, so as far as work coffee goes, it's better than other work coffees. But I still have been drinking that and it's not as good, so I put just 2 packets of sugar in it. Uh, but yeah, the more I drink sugar in that coffee, the more I want sugar in all my coffee. But I'm generally just sugar. I was creamer when I first started drinking coffee in high school.
Hmm. Because
But
at
it's
that point, you really want to kind of cut the bitterness of a lot of coffee you drink when you're younger. There's less control over the kind of coffee you have when you're younger. So a lot of coffee needed. I used to drink cream and sugar, so a lot of the coffee we had really needed it because it was really bitter. But I've kind of gotten away from the sugar thing. It just makes it too sweet for me, typically. But go ahead.
when I went to college, the problem with buying creamer was it would go bad and it was expensive. So I didn't want to pay for creamer if I was only using it for coffee and if I wasn't drinking enough coffee every day to use all of it.
Uh,
So I stopped buying creamer, so I just got used to not using it. So then I started drinking it black, and then I slowly started adding sugar back in.
yeah, see, I never had that problem. I drank coffee plenty fast enough that creamer never went bad. So there was that. Yeah, had a lot of coffee. The only reason when I had roommates, the only reason we had coffee makers was because I refused to be without it. So there was that small thing.
Yeah, we almost didn't have a coffee maker at this apartment. We had one at the house where I lived when I first moved here, and then when we moved to the apartment, that coffee maker belonged to the owner. So I was like, shoot, what am I gonna do without a coffee maker? I don't have money to spend on a coffee maker, but I have to have it just in case. And then one of our friends, they had just finished remodeling their office and they got a new coffee maker. They gave us the old one, and I was really excited.
Yes. Yeah. I am sure you were.
And then I got a very lovely French press from a very lovely friend.
Mm, mm. Yes, you did.
Thank you a lot. And so I use that now, but I just use the coffee maker to heat up the water. Um, One of our old coworkers, she gets I want to talk about this too. Um, the what do you call them? Subscription boxes. And she gets them with all these crazy flavors. And I've never been a flavored coffee person. Do you ever get the weird, crazy flavors like s'mores and what is it then? Do you know who I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. There are a couple of coffee subscriptions. Tonks, which is got bought by Blue Bottle, I believe. Blue Bottle Coffee. They do one. There are a couple others that I've seen here. They're kind of pop up on my Instagram ads because they coffee is a thing, so it pops up stuff like that. I have a flavor called caramel chocolate brownie. It's in the room there. So Yeah, it's in the kitchen. So I have a few that are kind of crazy, but I tend to kind of really read the descriptions of them because some of them have cool names, but then I look at them and like, there's no way I would want to drink anything with that flavor. So
So do you like having the flavored coffees?
typically, yes. Although you have to be careful with which type of flavor, like which brand of flavor coffee you get, because like Addison Roasters out of Addison, Texas, they do a really good job of their flavors. But sometimes some of the other lesser known companies that just kind of pop up randomly at Sprouts or Central Market or whatever, because those are typically places I buy my coffee beans. They are not so good about adding flavor without burning the coffee. So you have to be much more careful with those. So I've become very picky about which flavors I do use. And then sometimes I'll just go get a standard Colombian, just normal. So
I think anybody who says they really like coffee should be able to drink black coffee with no flavors in it. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think you should be able to. That shouldn't necessarily be your preferred, but you should be able to handle it.
yeah, well, it's also about some people like black coffee, but they think it needs to be dark roast or whatever. I'm not a fan of dark roast just in general. So I could drink a blonde or a medium without anything in it, but I just don't drink dark roast hardly ever, except for this Velvet Moon, which is actually good. So
Yeah. I like to think I like dark roast, and then I try it, and then I'm like, actually, maybe not so much. But I always try to convince myself that I do. I don't know why. Oh well. Never.
I just don't even put myself in that situation. I had, you try a few different brands of dark roast, but then it's all just kind of too bitter. And I just move on. It's like, nope, I'm not a dark roast person. I'm good. I don't need to be. Some people, really, don't think it's coffee unless it's dark roast. And I just think that's too limiting. Like, why make yourself less, less happy?
I mean, why would dark roast be more real coffee than medium or light roast? You're still roasting real coffee. It's not like you've got different coffee beans.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. But I've had many conversations with people who are like, "Oh, I don't drink that blonde roast stuff." It's like, why not? It's still coffee. And
It
it's
has
not,
more caffeine.
yeah, a little bit, but overall, it's like, okay, coffee's coffee.
Yeah, agreed.
Don't be a weird person about it. Yeah, some people are they have a very, rustic American kind of viewpoint on stuff like that. And it's like, okay, they just didn't have the ability to have better coffee back then. Like this is different.
Okay, when you were buying coffee, because you talked a little bit about trying new coffee and drinking a lot of it, do you get ground beans or do you get whole beans?
Almost exclusively whole beans. Every now and then I'll do a ground one if it says like maybe it's for French press or something like that because you need to grind it differently for a drip versus French press. But so much coffee that's pre-ground is pre-ground for drip. So so it's a um, different consistency. So I tend to grind it myself just because I can control exactly how coarse the beans are. So I prefer whole bean. Also, the thing we talked about earlier, sometimes you don't know how long it's been sitting there when it's ground. And so sometimes you'll get it ground and you'll try it and it doesn't taste very good because it definitely has been sitting too long on the shelf in the store. So that has happened to me a few times. So I definitely try to put um, the whole beans as a priority if I can.
I think that really is the best way to do it, but I don't have a grinder and I don't feel like spending money on a grinder or storing a grinder. So
Yeah,
for now.
I ended up getting a smaller one just because I didn't have a lot of room for one. And I wanted the bar in the kitchen to have some kind of other utility besides holding my coffee stuff. So there is that. I tried to be considerate this time.
Good. I'm proud of you.
You should be.
So I have 2 coffee thermoses because I do take a long time to drink coffee. And I think a lot of people who do really like coffee think that's weird. And it probably is. It just takes me a long time to drink anything. And coffee, I want to appreciate the taste the whole time. Um, anyway, so it takes me a long time. So I got 2 thermoses so that I could take it with me and go places. But it's so much extra effort. I know it's not, but in my head, it's so much extra effort to put it in a thermos. So I never use them. And they're like up in a cabinet, never used, never taken out. It probably helps that I have a desk job, so I can just take my mug into work and it's fine. But I'm also reheating it all day. So if it's in a thermos, I can't reheat it.
Well, if you get a good enough thermos, you don't need to reheat it. That's kind of the big part is that a lot of them you can get ones that are 12 hours hot, which is excellent. I have three thermoses. Yeah, I think it's three. I use there's one that holds the most coffee that goes to work with me pretty much every day, and it's also the one that keeps it the hottest, the longest. I
Mm.
have a couple of smaller ones, but they don't hold the heat for more than about 4 hours. Which typically when I go into work, I drink some at the beginning, but also about 5 or 6 hours in, I drink more, and I want it to still be hot. So I have to take the big one, which does make it more effort because it's
Yeah.
just another thing to have to carry around and keep track of and everything. As far as mugs go, though, I have a lot of mugs.
Love your
I have a so I guess I'll put it this: when we moved to this apartment, we bought a table that had a little shelving on it. I decided to make that shelving space for my what I guess I'll call them my VIP mugs, the
Mhm.
mugs I use the most. And there's a whole like 3 shelves of them. So that kind of gives you an idea of how
Just
many
3
mugs
shelves? I thought it was 4.
it's 3 for the VIPs. And then there's a bookshelf that we bought specifically for the mugs that I
Gosh.
have. And there are 1, 2, 3, there are 4 shelves of those on a big, standard bookshelf, which are completely full. It's completely full. I'm basically having to mess up the organization to fit the mugs in there. I have so many now. I have that bookshelf filled. I have the shelving on the table filled, and I have 3 that sit on the counter next to the coffee makers. So
I always forget to ask for a mug when I go to coffee shops. And so then I end up getting the paper cup. But at the same time, I do drink coffee really slowly. So even if I'm sitting in the coffee shop for 3 hours, there's still a slight chance I'm going to take the coffee with me.
yeah,
So I
there's
always
a
getting a
better
paper
than
cup.
50% chance, I think.
If it's more than 3 hours, I probably won't. I'll probably be done with it by that point.
See, based on the amount of conversations we've had, I'm not sure that's true. 3 hours is about right at that limit for you, where you still okay. There's about half a cup left. I'll drink some more.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Crazy.
after 3 hours, I'm probably done with it. But at 3 hours, there's a good chance it's still half.
Definitely a
But it's
chance.
up in that last hour. My coffee consumption rate is not consistent.
No, it's not.
But yeah, it's been a long time. I drink so slowly when it comes to coffee. I drink really slowly when it comes to everything, though. The first time I went out with my intern group in San Antonio, we went out and got drinks, and I had the same drink, whatever it was, in front of me for like 3 hours, while the other ones went and got like 3 pounds.
Yeah, I've noticed. I have a tendency to lap you a few times. Even with coffee, drinks doesn't really matter. I tend to go through it pretty quickly.
Okay, um, I want to do a coffee trivia game with you. We did this at a trivia night here in town a couple weeks ago, and
Okay.
really bad at it, so I'm gonna make you do it. And it's not
Okay.
exactly the same questions, but it's mostly the same question. This was the one that made me the most angry because I was like, I should know this and I don't know. What are the 2 major types of coffee beans?
Oh, major types of coffee beans. Oh boy. I don't like this. This is not fun. Um,
Do you want me to give you one?
One is Robusto, and then there's another one. I can't remember the other one though. I think if we're talking about the same like category, yeah.
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 You're on the right track.
Robusto is one, and I cannot remember the other one, and it's kind of infuriating me because I feel like I just I just read something about this. I give up.
Arabica. I don't think I say that word right, by the way.
Arabica?
Arabica.
Arabica, yeah.
Arabica.
How did I forget the word Arabica? Like it's on every coffee thing ever, just
Right.
about. I remember the odd one, but
Leads up to my follow-up question, which is the more popular bean?
Arabica is more popular, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it on everything. I don't know how I forgot that. That makes me sad.
Fair. So when we did this, I was sitting there staring across at my friend who is also really into coffee, and I was like, we know this. I know this. I know what the word is. And they gave us Arabica, and I could not remember Robusta for my life. And I sat there and I was scratching my brain trying to think of it. I was so mad at myself when they finally said it. It's like, dang it. I was so angry at myself.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
Which two countries consume the most coffee?
Consume the most coffee.
I got different responses on this one, but I'm pretty sure if you answer any of the three options, then I'll give it to you. But they're two according to one source that consume the most.
Consume. I would say, boy, I want to
Mhm.
say United States is on the list of coffee consumption, but who would be the other country? Hmm. Italy, maybe? I don't know.
Brazil.
Brazil. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The other one, another site said Finland.
Finland? Okay. Well,
I think is believable to some extent, but also not believable because they're just not as many people. Whereas
yes.
everybody in Brazil and everybody in the US drinks coffee.
Yes.
So
Unless the Finland people have it every meal.
right. Which country produces the most coffee?
We're talking about which country? Are we talking about where the coffee originates? Or which company owns the businesses?
Which coffee which country it originates from?
Originates, okay. I'm gonna say Colombia just because.
It's Colombia and Brazil.
Brazil? Well, okay. That's fine. I know Colombia is really popular up here.
Yeah, for sure. So I went and got clarification on the other question. It's the top 10 coffee consuming nations per capita is Finland. So per person, Finland drinks the most. And then Brazil and the US bring the most pounds of coffee in.
Got it.
And now I lost my questions. 1 second. I didn't spend as much time on this trivia set of questions that I should have. What is the most expensive coffee?
Oh, what's it called?
Or if you can describe why it's the most expensive or how it's made.
It's the poop coffee. It's the Civet Cat coffee.
Yeah.
Poop coffee. That's pretty terrible. But that's kind of how it's made. So I
don't remember where I first heard about this coffee, but I was so amazed that somebody had come up with this. Not that was the most expensive, because I believe people would be really excited about it. And I don't know, we get weird things from animals in weird ways, but the fact that somebody discovered this just blows my mind.
Someone was having a really interesting day. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. Okay, so this again leads to my next question. I'm not meaning this to happen, but it's working. According to legend, how was coffee discovered?
Ooh.
I did not know this one. This was very new to me.
Yeah, I'm stumped on that one. I don't even have a guess.
So there was a goat herder in Ethiopia who saw goats eating the plant, and then they would be full of energy,
Oh,
like a long time ago.
huh. Interesting. Like,
Yeah,
what's with those plants that's making those goats act so crazy?
that's how we found it. So what is coffee? What is its technical type of thing? Does that question make sense? I don't know how to word that better.
Mm. You talk about how it's what is it?
Classified?
Yeah. I don't know how to put that. Mm.
Hmm.
Is it like a fruit? I'm just
It
curious.
is.
Oh, it's a fruit. Go figure that.
Which
It is
is,
from plants, so I guess it does make some sense.
well, like beans are from plants, but they're considered legumes, which is not a fruit. Anyway, but yeah. So the coffee bean is inside this coffea plant, and it looks like a cherry. And then you open it, there's the coffee bean, and you have to roast it before it's coffee because it's tasteless until you roast it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Learning
Uh,
something new.
huh?
I said learning something new.
Every day. Bonus question. Where was coffee or where was espresso created? Is that what it was? I don't have this one written down. This is just from memory. So if it's wrong, somebody can call me out on it. It's fine.
Espresso, Italy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it
Which
does
makes
make
sense.
sense. Italians.
So that's why whenever this was something I looked up a long time ago. So if I'm wrong on this, again, please call me out. Um, but they so like espresso was a very Italian thing, and then somehow it got to France. No, wait, one of those two countries, and I'm having a really hard time remembering. But the reason why all the names in the U.S. have French or Italian, I can't think of which way it is. Is it Italian names? Is cappuccino French or Italian?
Italian, I believe. Yeah, cappuccino's
Italian.
Italian.
Okay, so the reason they all have Italian names is because it was such a big thing in Italy whenever coffee came to the US when they were trying to create this coffee culture. They were like, oh, we want to make it authentic. So we want people to think that it's a very authentic thing. So we're going to use the Italian names. And so that's why you have, like, even the sizes are in Italian. Even though this was so long ago, we're still stuck with Italian names that nobody can pronounce and made up Italian names that don't actually mean anything. Cappuccino actually comes, part of the word comes from light brown in color,
Hmm.
which is
That,
very interesting. All of them have some other meaning. Espresso means to be forced through. So when you make espresso, it's pushing it through instead of just dripping through because it is packed so tightly and the grounds are so fine. So the more you know. Congratulations, you got, I didn't even keep score. You got most of them right.
like,
I think the
I'm gonna give
only
myself
one,
like a 60.
I think the only one you got wrong was the according to legend one. How was
Yeah, I had
coffee?
no idea.
I don't have a prize for you other than just kudos.
I want some fireworks. I want fireworks. The only thing I don't understand is people who feel like you have to be either a tea or a coffee person. I think it's crazy. I'm going to enjoy both of them. They're both great. Like they have different purposes, and I drink them at different times. But people who pick between, I think it's crazy. I don't understand.
Enjoy them both. They are both quality drinks. They both should be enjoyed at the proper times.
Never limit your happiness for no reason. That's what I say.
What
So
a good phrase. We'll put that on the needlepoint.
I like it.
Doing it. Except I don't have needlepoint, so it's not gonna happen. But yeah. Okay. Well, is that all we have to say about coffee?
You know,
Kind
I
of
think
buzz.
it is.
Okay. Well, good chat. Thank you everybody for joining us with Coffee
Thank
Side
you
Chat.
guys.
We appreciate it very much. It makes our lives a little happier to do it. I think. I guess I don't speak for Malik, but I hope so.
I agree with her. I concur.
We should do an episode about tea later on because there are lots of things to say about tea too. Maybe not as many as coffee because it is more hyped.
Yes. And it is the thing that brought us together, but we can definitely figure out some stuff to say about tea, I'm certain.
For sure. I'll have to find a new quiz about that.
Oh, no.
No, see if you can beat it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your coffee, enjoy your tea, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Till next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.